Okay, just wait a few seconds. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Highline Sessions. I am your host, Alina Doran, founder of Highline Leadership. Today, my guest is Jimmy Newson. Jimmy is an international speaker. He is a business and growth strategy consultant, and he is the founder of Moving Forward Small Business, an organization on a mission to help 1 million businesses crush it with growth strategies by the year 2050. He specializes in working with small businesses and entrepreneurs of all sizes to help them overcome challenges and achieve those goals. He has certifications all over the place: Google, HubSpot, SEMrush, Cascade, Tranual. He is an expert in digital marketing, strategy, and growth. And he also serves on the board of the New York Marketing Association, Start Small, Think Big, International Business Development Professionals, and the New York Board of Education. He has trained thousands of business professionals worldwide, and he's been featured in a number of publications, including Forbes, Entrepreneur, Adweek, Ad Age, and his insights and strategies have helped countless businesses to save time, bypass bottlenecks, and prevent a lot of pain. So I'm loving this morning, this day. And thank you, Jimmy, for joining.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. So I'm curious about the bold mission, right? You have
Okay.
a bold mission to help 1 million businesses grow. I
Yeah.
love that it's explicit. I love that it's clear. I love that you have the by when, which is very Jimmy Newson. So I'm curious what gave rise to this mission and why small businesses?
Yeah. So it actually wasn't me who actually who came up with that number. It was actually a colleague of mine, and this will make sense later on in our conversation here today. But we were looking for something big. Moving forward, small business at the time wasn't even a thing. We were just I was just trying to come up with something, and I was actually trying to partner with her because I thought she was an amazing person. I was like, hey, let's do something together.
Mm,
And when I get an idea in my head, I just run with it, and I ran with it, and she wasn't really ready to go that far, but she was definitely there, really willing to support me and help me with that. And as we were trying to come up with something big to kind of motivate myself, but also not to motivate me, but to motivate people that we would need to help support these small businesses. That was where the 1 million came in, and then we set a date of when would we be able to achieve this, and then we said, all right, this is a long-term thing. And the reason why it's 2050 is because of course there's work to be done. But one of my mentors said, when you set your purpose, it should be bigger than you, and it should, in most cases, almost outlast you. And not saying that I'm going to kick the bucket by 2050. I hope not. But it is something that can be continued. And so that's why. So the combination of those things kind of came together. And then, of course, when you say I'm going to help 1 million small businesses crush it with innovation, technology, and strategy by 2050, you also have to have a plan in place to do so. And so that's where the strategy part of well, how are we planning to do it? So we actually have a plan that would help us if we stick to that plan.
leading by example,
Leading by example.
right?
We can't be the cobbler with the word shoes. We have to start wearing nice shoes, the same nice shoes that we fix for everyone else.
Right. I love that. It's the old adage, like the cobbler's kids have no shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the reframing of, go ahead and make yourself some nice shoes.
Go ahead and make yourself some nice shoes so you can help others. You can't,
Mhm.
again, if we want to go back to those analogies, it's why do you have to put your mask on first before you put the mask on of your child on an airplane? Because
Absolutely.
so that becomes so it takes it to that next level. You can't take care of other people if you can't take care of yourself.
100%. And in the world of business, modeling the behavior, and modeling the habits and the discipline and growth and your own growth and your own success, it helps to show that, hey, I'm not a hypocrite. I follow my own advice and it works. What a
Absolutely.
wonderful advertisement.
Especially in the time of transparency, which is where we're at now.
Absolutely. People are right. They're so used to hearing the pitches and the lines when they see you practicing. And that's we right. Like we share that deep desire, that value to practice what you preach. Otherwise they see right through it, and they should. And you want them
Absolutely.
to. Right. That's
Absolutely.
probably one of the features that you train folks on is to see through it so they could see the real thing. So
Absolutely.
it's speaking of the real thing. So
Okay.
our episode title today is Love is Not Enough. What comes up when you hear that in the context of running a business?
Well, when I first saw the title that you gave for our conversation, I had to take a step back. I was like, love. And I was like, this is a dating show? And then I was like, and then I looked at it and I said, oh, love is not enough. And what I see here is love as passion. And so love is not enough, passion is not enough. And I talk about this a lot when I'm training, when I'm in front of groups of business owners, and even those that want to also support business owners is, you know, most business owners are practitioners. You know, they're
Mhm.
good at what they do, which is what probably helped them start the business, but they're not great at running a business. And that's what I think here is love is the love or the passion for what you're trying to do, but it's not enough because there's so many other things that have to start to make sense in your mind as a business owner, not just a practitioner, in order to succeed.
Mhm. It's such an inflection point, right? That folks go through from being excellent. It starts with passion, love for something, excellence, and then starting going on their own, starting a business, and it opens up a whole new world of, well, running a company is very different. Having a strategy is very different than being excellent at what you do and what you execute and practice. And whether it's inspiring, leading people, creating culture, and in your case, it's creating a strategy and a plan that's tactical and realistic. I'm curious when you said we're talking about love as passion. What
Hmm.
is usually missing when passion's not enough?
It what's in simplest forms is strategy,
Yeah.
and it's a word that's been around for eons, you know, but it's treated as old in some cases. You know, oh, strategy is not for us. The strategy, or we're not ready for strategy yet. Strategy starts the moment you do conception of the organization, the business, the idea. You know, the strategy is how. You know, the business plan is the what. The strategy is how. You know, so I had a mentor. He used to say the great thing about entrepreneurs is they fall in love with their ideas. The bad
Hmm.
thing about entrepreneurs is they fall in love with their ideas. And what he was saying is sometimes you get so blinded by what you're doing,
Hmm.
and again that can become that passion, that could be that love, that becomes the driving force, and that can't always be the case. That is good to get the ball rolling, and sometimes it's good to get you out of a funk, because that love is so strong that you're like, okay, I got to get out of this, I got to get back to work. But it's the strategy that introduces consistency. It's the
Hmm.
strategy that introduces the ability to think, to problem solve, to make the road smoother, and to reduce the amount of road bumps, whatever those things on the road are, you know, and that's where there has to be a coupling of both in a way.
Hmm.
I'm more strategy than I am love, but I still have love, and believe me, I love what I do. So I guess maybe I should take that back because I do, I do have a lot of love for the people I support and help.
Mhm. Hey, it could be love for the mission, love for the people we support, love for the impact. It's going to vary for different people. I think what you were just saying is very interesting. Objection of we're not ready for strategy.
Hmm.
Can you say more about that?
Yeah, it's strategy is not as I think strategy is if you've never done marketing before, marketing sounds like a different language, and so what's more different than marketing for most people starting a business is strategy, because strategy can mean so many different things, you know. And so it can be a bit confusing. It can be a bit scary. It's almost like, why do only a third of businesses have a business plan? I think that's the number,
What
because
can you repeat that percentage one more
I,
time
I, I think
for folks tuning in?
a third of businesses only have a business plan. Again, I believe that's the number. It's somewhere around there,
So
and
2/3 are without a
don't have a
plan.
yeah.
2/3, and vast majority of businesses in our country are small businesses. So
99% of them.
99% of businesses are small businesses in the United States, and about 2/3 do not have a business plan.
Yep, yep. And I'm gonna have to look that up, but I think that is the actual. I think that's the number there, and and it's because it seems hard. It seems scary. It seems like I don't know if I could do this. I'll do it later. I
Mm.
just want to get the
Hmm.
ball rolling, and then you just never come around to it. And these are important uh, pieces to the puzzle for an organization. So the business plan is what it is. The strategy is how do you implement on this business plan to make it come true. And when you don't have these two things, you're really kind of flying blind.
That's right. You just have hope and passion and love and aspiration without the landing it on the ground and actually getting it done. Like it's really something really interesting that you pointed out that I heard is the concept of resting in our area of expertise for comfort. So folks who were excellent at what they were doing to start with, once they start a business, their comfort blanket is going back and executing and doing the things that they are wonderful at and know well. And that's a place of where they can feel productive and they can feel like there's forward momentum, but it's actually no longer the needle moving work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There it is. And this is where a transition has to happen. We did a training called Become the CEO of Your Small Business. And what that means is, you know, you're small as a small business owner, you're thinking like someone who owns something. As a CEO, you're thinking about. I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this. When you go into CEO mode, you now start to think about the organization as a whole, all the things, all the pieces, pieces that you may not have ever thought about before.
Mhm.
Some people are great in finance, some people are great in marketing, some people are great in human resources. But as the CEO, you have to be aware of all of them and how they all work. You need to be very versed in these things, and your schedule has to match that. And that was one of the biggest parts of the training we've done, where we're like, your day to day will have to change because there's only 24 hours in a day, and of that, if you're working 8, most likely as the owner you're working more than 8 hours, but within that 8 hour period of time, there's less and less time for you to do the things that you probably started off doing in the business, and now you have to think more about growth strategies. You have to start thinking more about, you know, taking time. We as business owners, we don't like to not be busy, but sometimes not being busy is the best type. That's kind of like your strategic thinking, where it looks like you're not doing anything, but it's the best thing for you.
That's the most uncomfortable thing, the spaciousness, right? That spaciousness, that empty, quiet time to reflect and strategize that used to feel as something unproductive. That
Becomes
be
one of the most important things that you could possibly do for your business.
the most important thing, and redefining what is productive is a key part of that transformation. That's what I'm hearing, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And that's, as it is with, rising in the corporate structure.
Hmm.
Without starting your own business, you are running your own team, your department. Perhaps as one goes up the ranks, they're going to be managing more and more. And what used to be productive and what used to be their area of safety, that blanket of I know how to do these things really well, the skill set, right? Someone might be amazing at financial modeling. Well, now they have to get really great at connecting with humans and understanding what motivates them and meeting them where they are. And right, it's the same. What was productive then is now redefined, and that's uncomfortable. So
It's uncomfortable, and sometimes this is where you might need to reach outside of your own circle to get that support, to help you with that transition. Maybe you're looking
mhm.
for validation that this is okay, or this has worked for others, and even in the simplest form, let's go for a solopreneur who post on social media to get more attention, to bring more visibility to themselves. Now they start to build this organization that supports other businesses with social media. Eventually, you can't be posting every day because that is a job. and
Right.
if you want to scale and expand, you need to bring on 3 or 4 other people who post, and you manage them. Now you manage them, you make sure they're taken care of, you're making sure they have what they need. You're no longer posting, but you love posting.
That's right. Because it's a comfort, right? You're good at it, and it brings you joy.
Yeah.
And that's an important, input. And it doesn't substitute addressing the rest. So, and speaking of addressing the rest, maybe there's a story. I'm wondering if there's a story. You've helped thousands. Can you pluck one out of maybe someone you worked with where they had the heart, the love, the passion, and they needed this shift and a reframing in strategy to really grow?
Yeah, I've worked with, yeah, like you said, I've worked with tons and tons of small businesses, and each story is different. That's the beautiful thing about strategy. Strategy allows me, at least this is where I kind of get my my joy. I get
Mm.
to experience so many different stories, and I'm always reminded of one story. Was helping a colleague of mine who was in the finance, the fitness industry, um, and very popular guy, has a lot of stuff going on. A lot of people are tugging at him to do things. I got a little involved to help him out with some stuff, and I remember one time two really big opportunities came at him, and he wanted to do them both. And me being someone who always takes a step back and looks at it, goes, they're totally opposite directions. And his passion was like I could do them both. And this is, and again, when I mentioned earlier about entrepreneurs fall in love with their ideas. Sometimes when you fall so much in love with your ideas, you feel invincible, but
Hmm.
you still have to use common sense, and that becomes the part that kind of bites you in the butt if you're not paying attention. To go, yeah, you should never give up, but there is a point where you have to pivot, or you have to go, this doesn't make sense. And when you're too in it, you can't make that decision. So I was trying to be that voice of reason to go, you can't do both. We have to weigh the pros and cons of both of these situations. I already knew which one was the better situation because I'm not using my emotions. I'm looking at it going, it's obvious they're both great opportunities, but this one is stabler. This is very stable. This has high risk, high reward. This is has a level of high reward, but less high risk, and it's even stabler. And they have a huge track record. So without I wasn't in a position to go, you have to do it this one. I was trying to push him in the direction to go, this is the right one. Of course, he ended up going with the other one, and I already knew how it was going to play out, and
Mm.
it played out exactly how I assumed it was going to play out. And it fizzled because there just the surface value of what these two things um, mean, regardless of which one he went with, his foundation wasn't there,
Mm.
which is the strategy, which is what are we going to do with the people? how do we make sure that we capitalize on the opportunity with the visibility? What's our strategic strategy going to look like with partnerships and acquisitions and all these things and that I'm going. We have to think about this stuff, and I was kind of slightly invested, so I was trying to, without being pushy about it, to go. I put in time here, so I have a
Right.
bit of a voice. So I had a little bit of skin in the game.
Hmm.
So when it kind of fell apart, everything kind of went its own way. And then I said, when it came back, I said, we can't do anything right now. We have to pause. I go, because you have to, I, I'm giving you the components that says you have to start thinking like a business professional. A business owner. You have to think like the CEO of the organization. And it's not just about you. There
Hmm.
are other people that when you make a decision, they get affected. And if you continue to behave as is, I don't care, I'm the one in charge, you're going to lose real quick, and you're going to lose the support that you spent many, many years building.
Hmm.
So there was a lot of opportunity, and unfortunately for that situation, it fell apart, and I was no longer willing to invest time and energy into this
Mm.
situation because I need my partners to be more responsible. I
Sure.
hope that answered the question.
Yes, I mean, it sounded a couple threads that I'm taking away from here, and tell me how it sounds. One is, well, sure, you want you're willing to work with folks who have skin in their own game and are willing to go the distance. Otherwise, what's the point of that? And the other is, I'm hearing that it's this particular entrepreneur had two paths ahead of him. You felt the other one would have been the better fit strategically. What I'm hearing is it wasn't about which path he chose as much as he didn't do the planning, and he wasn't thoughtful and intentional about planning for that other path, even if it wasn't the most aligned path in your view. It was that he didn't invest and go all in on that path, and he didn't set himself up for success.
Yes, yes. There's a lot of stuff, and that is definitely one of the highest level ones that I think what entrepreneurs miss is that level of research, that level of investing time into understanding something enough where they can make an educated decision. It's too much on emotion and not enough on real hardcore facts, real data that would help you. And that's what strategy does for you. It
Mm-hmm.
gives you the ability to step back and go, wait a minute, it's not a race, it's a marathon. And we have to think this through, because if you have a solid strategy in place, you know a lot of the key pieces and a lot of the key players. And when you look at it from that standpoint, you see how much everyone is invested in the same thing that you're invested in.
Mm.
And now we have to go, does this serve the community versus serving the individual,
Does it serve the ego?
the ego? So better word there. Does it? And that's what's playing, is the ego. Me. I'm gonna be, and I'm just like, you get to a point where it can't be that anymore.
It's a mindset shift from me to there's a bigger vision, and there are people like what you're talking about there, right? There's the community, there are the folks who are, you're steering a group of folks who are
Yeah,
depending on you and counting on
absolutely.
you to model, to show, to lead, to partner. And it's a very, very different game. Um Wondering for folks who are tuning in
Hmm.
and they love what they do, but they're stuck in their growth, stuck in the path forward. What might be one shift that they can make to start moving again?
Well, it really depends on where they are. So I'll give you two different scenarios. Scenario number one: you've never done a strategy. That's your bottleneck. You need to figure out what your, in simplest forms, what's the vision of the organization, meaning where do you see that organization in the future, and you need a mission that tells you how you're going to get to that vision, and then you need values that says how do we behave as a company, as an organization, as partners, as vendors, because then that helps make sure that everybody's doing the right thing all the time if we establish those values. So if you haven't done that, then that's the starting point, because that will give you so much clarity. And I say that because, especially for my very small organizations and even my solopreneurs out there that are reluctant to give away control, and it's valid when you don't want to give away control because you feel someone's going to take over and do all kind of crazy stuff with your baby.
It's your
But if you
baby.
but if you have a strategy that says this is the vision, this is the mission, this is the purpose, this is the values, how we behave, here's what's acceptable, here's our goals for the year, here's our objectives, then they have to match that.
Hmm.
And when you don't have that, then yes, they can do whatever, because you haven't defined what the structure is of the organization. So now you're leaving it up to interpretation. So that's one. So if you don't have a strategy, you need to start there, because from there that will make your life so much easier. Now, let's say you do have a strategy. If you do have a strategy in place, and again, it could be so many different things, but I'm going to throw this out there. I would start to focus on strategic partnerships, because when you have a strategy in place, you already have certain sets of guidelines and rules, and you have a direction, you have a focus. Now the objective here is, if you can build great strategic partnerships, no matter if you're a small business, if you're a large business, if you're just starting out, you can get support outside of your own organization to do things that you would normally have to pay people a lot of money to do, and you can now get that through a partnership and start to accelerate your growth a lot faster.
There's a you don't have to go it alone. And in fact, if you do, it's going to hamper you thought that I'm having.
Absolutely, strategic partners can bring to the table resources that you don't have, that you possibly don't have the ability to create yourself. There's so many wins with building a really great strategic partnership, but a
Hmm.
strategic partnership has to be built on alignment.
And to have alignment, one needs to understand their values and their mission and where they're going.
Absolutely. And I always say to a lot of small businesses, they're like, "Oh, I want to partner with this big brand or that big brand." And I'm like, if you don't have your act together, you don't have your structure and strategy and all this stuff together, they're not going to trust you with their marks. They're not going to, because
Hmm.
if you can't manage your own marks, why would they give you access to their marks? So prove to them that you come in there with your values and visions, and tell them how your people behave and how you expect this partnership to go. They're going to be a lot more impressed with you and go, "Wow, this is really refreshing."
Right. Here's somebody intentional and purposeful.
Absolutely. And someone who can really define what it means to be in a strategic partnership. I've been in strategic partnerships with organizations 10 times my size, 100 times my size, and some of them are just as dysfunctional as, as us small businesses. So somebody's got to be the adult in the room.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's interesting. We're talking about across what we both do. There's an integration of I'm going to say there's an integration of whole self. So it's different language. We're using the different languages of. I often see worlds where there's an over reliance on data
Hmm.
and facts. Data, we have a plan, and there's an over commitment. There's a clenching, like a clinging onto a plan, and an unwillingness to take a step back and feel into what else is happening and feel into intuition
Hmm.
and feelings and the harder to measure components that we often then meld with yes plan and yes data. Data is Play-Doh. We can manipulate numbers any which way we want. I mean, look at politicians. We can take statistics and turn them into whatever viewpoint we would like to present. And so melding intuition and that core knowing with planning, with a discipline, with that consistency that you're talking about that is an imperative, that's the golden, that's the best, right? That's the That's the
Yeah.
best that one can hope for, is that full integration of what does your gut and your heart tell you, and now let's go look at your actual routines and your plans and your habits and right your documents of record.
Yeah, and I love what you said there because it helps us understand that this is a living document. This is a living strategy where you have to keep it top. You have to keep it in front of everyone. My strategy is in front of me all the time because that is how you won't you don't write. It's not a set it and forget it situation here. You
Hmm.
know that, and people, and that, because you will get that they're like, well, this is the plan, we don't deviate from it. I didn't make sure I'm not everyone understand, not saying that you have
Right.
to adjust. The whole point of a strategic plan is to keep you on the path, but things outside of your circle can affect that plan. And now if you're not paying attention and you're continuing on your path, you can end up in the desert somewhere because you
Right.
weren't paying attention to everything
That's
else. Go ahead.
I love that. I love it. You know what visual I have in my head right now
Okay.
of like over attaching to a GPS and relying solely on the GPS to get you to a place when you're driving,
Hmm.
and then it turns out you're about to drive off a cliff.
Yep.
Um,
Because they
it's
removed the road.
right. The road has been, that's right. That road no longer exists. The system hasn't been updated. The GPS is showing you what no longer applies.
Yeah.
And it's up to you to pay attention to both.
Yeah. So it's a living document. So you're constantly making adjustments. You're constantly getting feedback and input. Now, let's say you don't have any employees. You're getting feedback and input from vendors, from
Hmm.
freelancers, from anybody that's interacting with your brand. Even your customers become a part of your war room, if you will, or whatever you want to call your strategy session. It's just the questions might be different, how you communicate with them, how you interact with them, the feedback that you're looking to get back from them. But
Hmm.
there's so much data there, and I know data sounds very transactional. Where we're talking about people's how people feel, their feelings, this and that. But those are key moments that could give you so much insight in how well your strategy's doing, when it's time to make adjustments to the strategy, and when it's time to pivot altogether.
And knowing the difference and paying attention and having that awareness is key. It's absolutely key. So, there are a lot of statistics out there floating around about how many, businesses succeed.
Mm-hmm.
In the first year, 25% fail. Something like within 10 years, 65% will have failed.
Yep.
Of the businesses that you've worked with that have made it and have done exceptionally well, I am wondering about the mindset commonalities of the business owners. What are they doing differently that the others are not?
Well, I can almost tell immediately how a relationship is going to go, and it's typically based on open-mindedness. How well they're how well they're open to trying something new. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the
Trying.
same thing over and over again, hoping for a different outcome. So, and this is where it gets a little tricky. It gets a little dicey because, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You heard that. But at the end of the day, you got to try things. You got to try something new. You might have to take a different approach and look at it, and you have to not be afraid.
Hmm.
And let's take into account we're in 2025. Two things: digital transformation and AI. Now, these are two massive buzzwords. Okay, and people are indulging in them for in different ways. And people always go, well, what AI should I be using? What should I do in regards to digital transformation? I go, what does your strategy say? And the strategy is based on, well, what problem are you solving? What things are going on in your organization that need this technology? Is problem first, then we find the tools, we find these things, and they're open to that. You know, we have a conversation, but we talk about the big picture first, and then we work our way in.
Hmm.
And you know, anybody that comes in and goes, I just need 50 new leads by next week, I can't work with that individual, because that's what we call a lagging indicator. They want something, but we don't have the leading indicator is what do we have going on that could potentially lead to the 50. We need to take a step back, look at the bigger picture, zone in on things that are happening, and go, okay, from here is where we can hit this goal of 50 new people. And sometimes that's not going to be next week. This could be a long term thing, especially if you've never done that before. You know, I've had people come up and they go, I want to be able to hit this much money in revenue from marketing. And I go, how much marketing have you done? They go, none. And I go, you can't, that number has no significance because you've never done anything in the first place, because we need a benchmark,
Right.
you know. And so I think that becomes the biggest issue I have, with newer businesses, or businesses that don't understand. And when businesses get it and they go, I get it, even if they go, we've never done it, but this makes perfect sense. They have to be open minded enough to go, this is the reality. This is not going to be a tomorrow thing, but we need to invest the time and energy and the resources and trust the system. You know, and the system is based on, well, what are our capabilities, and who do we have access to. So it's a very long dialogue. And when they can wrap their head around that and go, okay, this is the long term game, then that's where they start to see the wins.
So they have to be one of the differentiating factors is there needs to be an openness and a flexibility, and they
That
need to
is
be willing to iterate and experiment.
absolutely, absolutely. And I had one client that was amazing at that. You know, we ended up helping them do 38% increase in revenue. They were already an eight-figure organization, so you do the
Wow,
math on that. But they had great data.
amazing.
They had great, you know, they had a lot of stuff in place. They just were missing things. So I came in and I was able to look at the big picture. I said, before I do anything, let's do a snapshot of the entire organization, because from there we can see where we we can see where we were able to uncover some great opportunities. You know, there's one thing to push the boulder up the hill, but it's another to let the boulder roll down the hill. You know, so we were able to find spots where they already set the foundation, they just weren't capitalized on the opportunity. And
And
then
it
we were,
took, sorry, go ahead.
oh, go ahead, go ahead.
No, it took a professional out from the outside, as it often does. It takes somebody else to help you see your own blind spots, right?
Yep.
As they're working day to day and they're so close to it, it's tremendously valuable to have someone on the outside come in and have another look and have a fresh perspective for you and call out what maybe you haven't been able to call out yourself.
Yeah, and I think for us as service providers, we have to do a better job of education. Sometimes I've worked with service providers who are treating what they do as a massive secret, and no one can know anything, and they're just operating, and you just have to wait to see the results. And I get how frustrating that can be for someone on the end that's paying for all of that. You know, so there has to be to me there has to be a meeting in the middle. I have no problem going behind, lifting up the covers and going, here's what I'm working on,
Hmm.
here's how this works, enough for them to go, okay, I get it. I still don't want to do it. I'm glad you're doing it. You know, but I now it makes more sense to me, and
Yeah.
I trust the system more because of that. You know, so I think there has to be an opportunity for you both to share in how this thing is going to be solved.
Absolutely. And I've seen, I've seen you talk. I've seen one of your talks firsthand, and I love that you do very much that. You deliver in your talks. There's value in the talks, practical, actionable tips in those talks, not just slogans, not your one, two, three concepts, but something that they can take away and practice, put into place.
Hmm.
So, and that helps build that trust. Someone's letting you in to examine their baby. Their business is their baby and they love. And
Absolutely.
it's there's an emotional attachment and ego and financial investment, emotional investment, and they're letting you in. There's deep trust there that you're building right away when you're delivering substance and value. That's
Yeah.
key.
And even for me, I mean, I'm changing again the way that I'm communicating with newer clients because I'm learning from even mistakes that I'm still making today with past clients. And I go, I probably should have said it this way. I probably should have brought this in sooner. Sometimes, especially in marketing and sales, you know, depending on where the person is in their business, determines how fast you can get them to the finish line. And when they've done absolutely nothing at all from a marketing and sales um, uh, it's they have a lot of wrong. They're operating on a lot of myths, and they haven't really put it into the thought process of what it really takes to make things happen, especially from a
Mhm.
marketing and sales perspective. And we're kind of there going, I know you want to do it like this, but we have to do it like that, and this is why. And there's no amount of money or that you could throw at it unless you're working 24 hours a day, which we all know that we're not going to be able to do.
Right.
So it becomes very difficult sometimes, and I'm trying to figure out a better way to, again, from my perspective of growth strategies, which is a lot is based on marketing, to go, this is a long-term investment. you know SEO alone is not going to do it. Google ads alone are not going to do it. You need a multi-channel approach here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I know I kind of went off on a tangent there. My
No, this
bad.
is you're passionate. This is no, it's these are really useful bits of wisdom and reflection there. Um, I'm wondering as we're sitting here, we're talking about this, and we're continuing to learn. Right? There's a continuum of what we know today that we wish we knew back then, and great to know what we know.
Hmm.
If the Jimmy Newsom of today could sit down next to the Jimmy Newsom of 20 or 25 years ago and have a conversation with him, what might he say?
Whew. Being someone who's in the position I am in now, where I teach this, that's a very difficult question to answer, but I'm going to answer it anyway because I thought about it, and I'm all digital. I'm a digital maniac. Okay, so most people would think it would have to be to do with something digital, and it actually doesn't. I say surrounding yourself with the right people and asking for help.
Ah,
Um, that to me is probably the one thing I did not do. If I didn't do it well, I didn't do it at all. I always assumed that it was me that needed to do it, and it's paid its toll. You know, to I could sit here all day and go, I'd be a lot further, but that's life. So you live and you learn. But the thing is, hopefully, you're learning from these things. But at the end of the day, it really is about making sure you're surrounded with the right people, making sure you're hanging out in the right circles. You go out if you're not in the circle, how do you seek it out?
you seek out community and you ask for help.
You seek out community and you ask for help, and that in itself is another little caveat. Asking for help is different than someone going, "How can I help you?" And it always comes back to, well, how clear are you on what it is that you're supposed to be doing in order for you to tell them how they can help you so it's the
That's
most
right.
effective as it possibly can be.
That's right. Sometimes one doesn't know what to ask for.
Yeah. So that would be my thing, and so like I said, that's why I said it's kind of hard to answer that question because there are three, four things that really have to be in place almost at the same time in order to make that impact that you're looking to make or
Mhm.
take it to the next level. And again, I think the biggest part from that is asking for help, as long as you have the right people around you. But then so
Mhm.
many other things have to be in place for you to be in that position.
Mhm. It's not. If it were an easy to solve problem, it all would have been solved by now.
Yeah.
Speaking of surrounding yourself with people who can help and asking for help, what is the best way that business owners can get plugged into what you're building with moving forward small business?
Well, the best is to go to our website, movingforwardsmallbusiness.com. That would be the place where I've dedicated basically the rest of my life until, I'm not saying one day it might sell, who knows, but as of right now, this is my life. um, and then of course you can Google me, you know, uh, Google or look me up on ChatGPT now, search GPT, or LinkedIn is my favorite social media channel, so connect with me there as well. So it's either Jimmy Newson or Moving Forward Small Business.
There it is. There it is. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. This is the a lot of I appreciate you sharing a lot of useful tidbits for folks to take away.
Yeah, and that is why I created Moving Forward Small Business, is because there are so many different things, and there's so many places that you can get help from, but there's a lot of places, and so we're like, let's create this community. We focus specifically on growth strategy, so we don't talk about anything else other than growth strategies. And if we do talk about things like finance and human resources, it's in relationship to growth strategy, because
Hmm.
businesses, I forget the top three things businesses struggle with, but one of the three is growth, you know, which is why we're carving out that specific piece to be like, we want to be your growth partner for the next 5 to 10 years, you know, because this is an ongoing thing, and you constantly have to be changing with the times. So it's exciting for us to be in this space and to support businesses where it matters the most, as far as I'm concerned.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for being here and sharing this. And I'm excited. I'm excited for what's next.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, and I hope that all those watching this got real value. Feel free to reach out. I'm an open book, so reach out to me, ask me a question. I love answering questions.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You got it. Take care. Thank you.
Take care.